talking about one of my favorite characters so far, Colonel Radec. Not so great at the close range stuff, but a dominator at a distance.
We knew that Radec in sort of the Killzone universe is known as kind of a close range melee fighter, and we did make sure to retain that element. From the Killzone franchise, it was an opportunity to introduce a very unique playstyle in the PlayStation All-Stars, and that really manifests in his sniper rifle.
Now let's talk about that sniper rifle in a little more detail there, because there's a couple tricks to using it. For instance, I noticed you can buffer it in midair. You can get it going in midair, and the second he lands, bam!
There is a bit of a long startup on the sniper rifle, so it takes a while to get going, and one of the tricks that you'll see a lot of the more advanced Radec players utilize is that you can start executing that move in air, sort of get the wind up as it's occurring as you're falling down, and then by the time you land, you'll get that shot off, and it's a way to mitigate some of that risk of the long wind-up of that attack instead of having to deal with that all while you're on the ground.
Another move I found myself using again and again when I had the opportunity was tapping triangle. He gives like a burst with an assault rifle.
It doesn't generate a ton of AP, it doesn't have a ton of distance, it's pretty good at mid-range, but it's something that players have to pay attention to and deal with, and that also is something that, again, is centered to Radec's style.
Now up close though, he does have a couple strong moves, particularly that hand shotgun he uses.
Yeah.
There's a couple of, he has a combo that uses that, and it's also really effective in midair.
So his throw utilizes that shotgun really well. He sort of teleports behind an unsuspecting opponent and fires that shotgun behind him and send the opponents flying. And of course, that's all Radec wants to do, really, is just get guys to the other side of the screen.
He's got a pair of moves that complement each other perfectly, and they involve grenades.
We actually did something really interesting with Radec in that we gave his grenades two different properties. So the more long-distance grenade, this is performed with down triangle, there's a little bit of a bounce on it, and I know a lot of sort of skillful first-person shooter players like to apply the strategy when they use grenades. You try to bounce it off the ground to give it a bit of additional range, and then when you do that, it explodes at a really nice, predictable spot. And so Radec, it has exactly that kind of functionality.
Now, of course, you know, PlayStation All-Stars, it's all about the supers, and Radec's got some of the best I've seen yet, just again and again and again, each of them more deadly than the one before it.
So you get this target reticle that appears on screen, and if he can overlap that reticle on players, it'll lock on. Anywhere where that character moves, these three homing missiles will start flying towards that player.
But let's talk about that level 2.
Yeah.
Very visually spectacular. It's the arc cannon, if I'm not mistaken, from Killzone 2 and Killzone 3.
The best place to use that, or the best situation to use that in, are in spaces with a wide horizontal space. You want to make sure that opponents don't have an easy vertical escape, so there's not a platform immediately above them. And if you can manage to fire it off at distance or even at range, it can be really effective.
And that leads us to the level 3, which is extremely potent. I mean, there's some really devastating level 3s in this game, and I'd argue that Radec is up there with the best of them.
It's a really chaotic moment.
So when it comes to Colonel Radec, what kind of player is going to gravitate to him?
If you're that guy who loves playing first-person shooters, immediately goes for the sniper rifle and sits on the hill and just rains chaos down on everyone else who's playing the game, I think Radec's going to be the character for you.
PlayStation